Welcome back. In our last lesson, we explore the fascinating dynamics of trust and how it is essential to our holistic well-being. We talked about vulnerability as an essential step towards trust building. Did you have a chance to share and hear embarrassing stories? What was that like? Did you notice anything about the atmosphere of the room or your levels of comfort? As teachers, it may seem counterintuitive, but one of the most important things is to be able to show vulnerability as a leader. Asking for help is a sign of confidence. I started teaching and leading groups when I was very young. My initial anxiety led me to act older, tougher, and wiser than I was. I soon learned that my performance achieved the opposite effect. The students, only a few years younger than I was, could see right through my act. They were trying to navigate my tough act by trying to nail the right answers. But I felt that nobody was really learning anything. When I started admitting that I didn't know all the right answers to some of the questions and began creating environments where we could all learn together, my experience as an educator was absolutely transformed forever. I had nothing to prove other than I was passionate about my topic and I wanted to share my joy around it. I showed them who I was so I could know who they were. In order to do that, I had to think outside the box to allow more flexibility and freedom. In my case, thankfully, theater allowed me to do that. They were trusting me, so now I had to trust them. What I felt then was at first fear and then a sense of rewarding connection. Safe spaces are those where we don't need to fear each other. I stopped fearing the students and they stopped fearing me. On a neurological level, that feeling of connectedness has been linked to oxytocin, popularly known as a love hormone. In his paper, The Neuroscience of Trust, American neuroscientist Paul J. Zak explores the relationship between trust, brain activity, and behavior, and how it impacts our engagement with others, work productivity, and well-being. The author hypothesizes that oxytocin acts as a neurological signal that indicates when we should trust someone. Oxytocin is one of our 4 feel-good hormones, the others being endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine. Oxytocin's main function is to facilitate childbirth and the production of breast milk. It is responsible for creating the bond between mother and child, which is one, if not the most, trusting relationship that there is. Oxytocin helps us build bonds with loved ones and connections with others. When we all agree to share an embarrassing story, our communal vulnerability is rewarded with the release of oxytocin, so we can begin to turn strangers into friends. This is why people that have survived some rough times together are likely to have an unbreakable bond. They have seen each other at their most vulnerable and pulled through. On the other hand, high-stress situations inhibit the production of oxytocin, which leads to more anxiety, fear, and helplessness, which is why when we are very stressed, we tend to not interact well with others. So from the moment we are born, oxytocin is helping us connect to the world. Children's trust journey begins at home. In her article, How to Raise Kids Who Will Grow into Secure, Trustworthy Adults, influential educator Esther Wojcicki highlights the importance of creating opportunities for trust in children from a very young age. Trust empowers children and is a key element necessary for them to become independent and cooperative adults. There are plenty of opportunities for children to build their own trustworthiness in each stage of their lives. Soon after they're born, they begin to sense, see, and feel what trust and trustworthiness are like by observing parents' behaviors. Honest, consistent, and trustworthy parents create a safe space for children to develop the confidence to trust themselves. Wojcicki says, while you can't always trust a small child to make intelligent choices, you can guide them in considering options and picking the best one. As children enter adolescence, there will be more instances where trust can be cultivated. Underline the importance of making good on their word and making healthy decisions for themselves. Asking them to perform achievable and appropriate tasks around the house, having conversations about scenarios that might be shown on TV or books, and maintaining good, honest conversations will help create the space for awareness and growth. Encouraging these opportunities is not about constantly testing your child, but about giving them the space to make genuine mistakes and understand and value their own instincts while knowing that you're there supporting them every step of the way. Unfortunately, as we know, not all children experience these foundational teachings at home or during their early childhood. When children are not empowered through trust, they don't develop the confidence to value, respect, and even love themselves. This may happen to neglected kids, but also to children who are extremely overprotected. When we overprotect our kids, they end up perceiving themselves as untrustworthy. So they become helpless, afraid, and dependent on others. This can be extremely paralyzing and could turn into a lifelong struggle. No confidence to perform and no confidence to ask for help. So, by the time these children get to the classroom, the cards are already stacked against them. They might be difficult, rebellious, disengaged, or disruptive. They don't feel any joy in having to exist in an even larger perimeter of people that don't seem to trust them. The typical response to a challenging child is dismissal, punishment, and disapproval. And with a full classroom of children to think about, there often isn't enough time or resources to accommodate those that fall outside of the expected pattern of our educational systems. So they lose trust in the system too. If children don't trust us and don't trust the school experience itself, we are unable to help them or influence them in any positive way. Paul Zag recommends several positive leadership behaviors that encourage the production of oxytocin and strengthen the engagement and holistic well-being of groups. He recommends setting challenging yet attainable goals, which produces a healthy level of stress that improves teamwork, creativity, and focus. These goals should be visible, purposeful, and concrete. Vagueness is confusing and makes it difficult to even start a task. Allowing students to work out how to tackle an objective gives them autonomy and space for innovative ideas. Having agency in selecting and working on their areas of interest guarantees engagement, and constantly mixing teams will allow intersectionality and more creativity. Being transparent, open, and honest about plans and expectations lowers uncertainty and anxiety. This includes explaining the why behind decisions, content, and tasks. Being intentional and genuine in building personal relationships is the foundation to understanding students as individuals so we can better support their learning journey. This means paying attention to their holistic well-being. Author and educator Ben Johnson advocates for student-directed learning, which aligns with the positive trust environments described before that are ideal for the production of oxytocin. Student-directed learning allows the student the independence to take risks and explore, rather than to just obey and follow instructions. For this to work, teachers must also build trust in the students. In his article, Developing Students' Trust, the Key to a Learning Partnership, Johnson says, "We earn our students' trust by showing them respect in the form of meaningful, challenging, and rewarding learning activities that are worthy of their time and best efforts. By embracing this teacher-student trust, we help students build the confidence to explore, to know themselves, and to find out what they are passionate about. If we don't create that safe space, we're only teaching our students how to obey. In these types of environments, the only sense of uniqueness is achieved through fierce and stressful competition and a self-centered pressure to fit in and reach a quantifiable goal. Test scores pass judgment more on the teacher than on the student. A teacher's own creativity and self-worth is stunted. So teachers also need to be trusted by the school and feel safe to facilitate this learning journey as a guide on the side instead of a sage on the stage. But children not only need to trust their teachers, they need to trust the knowledge. This is called epistemic trust. We trust content that is logical, connected to our surroundings, and relevant. We trust what makes sense. And accordingly, our senses play a huge part. At the end of the day, we learn by placing tangible knowledge in our body, seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, doing, thinking. This is how we know things are true. An actor can't perform if anything about his blocking or intentions does not make sense. Students can't learn if the logical connections aren't made. A teacher who makes sure those connections are clear for everyone is trustworthy. Children also need to trust their classmates. To facilitate this, the teacher has the potential of being the connector of all types of diversity, knowledge, and experience. Through their acceptance and emotional intelligence, they show that there is space for everyone to be themselves. It is clear within the group setting that if I'm accepted, I have worth, and so others, different than me, also have worth because they too are accepted. We all play our part in the trust paradox, with the teacher placing the first bet by modeling the trusting and trustworthy behavior. This dynamic will lead to higher levels of trust, which equals higher productivity and better teamwork, and decreases the possibilities of burnout, dropping out, or giving up. So, a safe and thriving classroom is built through trust. In a trusting environment, we can be ourselves and accept each other in our vulnerability and uniqueness. A space where strangers bond through shared transformative experiences. In such a room, everyone feels seen. Everyone has a voice to celebrate and complement their differences and deepen their similarities. Trust enables the capacity of a human being to learn from another human being. In a room like this, everyone is learning from each other. For me, as an artsy, shy, curious, easily distracted bookworm of a child, that room was the theater. The community theater and school's theater groups, where I first started my journey, showed me a type of radical acceptance and appreciation that at that moment I had not yet felt in a conventional classroom. In our next lesson, we will put all this information together along with the theater practices that will help bring it all to life. In the meantime, you can practice this exercise. Take a deep breath and hold it in. Imagine that you are in an impenetrable fortress. There's music and singing from a campfire in the distance, but you can't get out to join. When you can't hold your breath any longer, let go. While you breathe deeply and calmly, think about the ways you admit vulnerability and celebrate others' successes. How do you feel in those moments? Does the fortress crumble around you? Do you feel like you can join the party? See you next time.